Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with a Repertoire video, the best and the worst of the work in question. And the work in question is Varèse, Amériques. Oh my goodness, this is fun. I mean, Amériques is kind of like, well, it's the rite of spring goes east, west, yeah, pardon me, west. Depends what direction you're facing, whether it's going east or west. But Amériques is the new world, and it was supposed to represent a new world of orchestral music. And it is one of the largest pieces of music in the entire repertoire in terms of the forces required. You've got this immense orchestra. It's like 8 horns and 6 trumpets and scads of woodwinds and buckets of percussion. Buckets and buckets of percussion with sirens and lions' roars and all kinds of stuff going off. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. And it's only 25 minutes long, or 22 minutes long, really, 22, 23 minutes, which means it doesn't get performed all that often unless you're doing something like the Rite of Spring. But then how could you do both? Because the orchestra would be exhausted. I mean, it's incredible. And I've seen it a few times, actually, and it's more fun than anyone has any right to have. It really is. It's just a noise fest. And one of the fascinating things about it is that it falls under the rubric of primitivism. And musical primitivism is kind of an amazing thing because as far as like Western composers conceived it, musical primitivism, as in, for example, The Rite of Spring or Amériques or Bartók's The Miraculous Mandarin or the Scythian Suite or things like that, is anything but primitive. It requires the most sophisticated, variegated, nuanced ensemble, enormous ensemble, in order to achieve what are basically just sort of grunting and groaning sounds, very, very primitive screams and barks and whoofs and whistles and whatnot. And it's all done using this unbelievably refined and sophisticated orchestral apparatus. So it is this sort of contradiction at the heart of it. And really, primitivism is the last gasp of romantic gigantism. I mean, we look at it as the beginning of modern music and all that because of the emphasis on rhythm, on percussive sonorities and whatnot. And in that sense, yes, it is. It is it's on the cusp. But the idea that you do that with these gargantuan ensembles, Mahler 8, Symphony of 1,000 type ensembles, well, that is a romantic sort of conceit, if you want to call it that. And so, yeah, it's an amazing piece. And I have a clump of Amériques here that we're going to talk about. And a couple that I have sitting around that I wasn't able to dig out, but I will talk about them anyway, so you'll know. There are really not many bad recordings. There aren't any bad recordings of Amériques, because if you're going to do it at all, it's one of those works that's a specialized work. So if you do it, chances are you're going to do it quite well. I mean, it's just the way it goes. So we're just going to go down the stack here and introduce other ones as necessary. Well, here's an interesting one. Well, let me just say this first of all. The Amériques generally fall into 2 categories: decent and really, really good. I mean, there's not much in between. You've got orchestras. It's all about the orchestra, how well the orchestra plays and how well the engineers capture all the commotion that's going on down on the stage. So first, this is an interesting one. Many of you probably haven't heard of if you're an Amérique collector. It's Zoltán Kocsijs conducting the Hungarian National Philharmonic Orchestra with the Amadinda Percussion Group in Schoenberg's Pelléas and Mélisande, and Amériques, strange coupling. There is another strange coupling like this, actually, with Ingo Metzmacher and the Deutsches Radio Symphony Orchestra Berlin. I think it's Ein Heldenleben and Amériques. Now, there is an incompatible pairing. Whoa, baby! And Metzmacher is a wonderful conductor in music like that. But, I mean, the Varèse, not so much the Strauss. Anyway, so see, there you go. I mentioned another one. But that's such a strange coupling. It sort of places itself, it's an outlier in a way. This is a little bit better to have Schoenberg and Varèse together, 2 different poles in the modernist world. And the performance, this is a live performance. It's not the best. It's not the most accurate, especially at the very end where everyone seems to be sort of getting a little tired. You know, when you have that business with the whip where the orchestra is going, chink, 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 crash, you know, that sort of thing. And it goes over and over again as you kind of stumble into the closing pages. And, you know, that's not as well realized as it could be. But boy, they're trying hard. And it's, as for a live recording, it sounds quite good. And the puzzled applause at the end is rather charming when it's finally over. So this is on Budapest Music Center Records, BMC. And I just want to point out that it's out there for you guys who collect Zoltán Kocs's recordings, because he was a wonderful conductor. And the Pelléas and Mélisande is really good. So there you go, for chromatic sludge, which is what Pelléas and Mélisande is anyway. Then here we've got one with the Orchestre Nationale de France in Kent Nagano. He did a couple volumes of Varèse stuff. And this Amériques is also okay. I mean, it's decent. I mean, Nagano certainly is a good conductor of this kind of music. The problem is that the orchestra is not great. I mean, the French Orchestre Nationale de France is just not fabulous, and they weren't in 1993 when this was done. They're not terrible, but you could just have so much more brilliance and virtuosity than these folks offer. Also, the sonics are only good, not like special, but you do have Phyllis Brynjolfsson singing in Offrande, and she's wonderful. She's always wonderful. So there's that one, and then here's another oddity. It's on Mode Records, and it's with the Carnegie Mellon Symphony Orchestra, the Carnegie Mellon Philharmonic, actually, under Juan Pablo Izquierdo, or Lefty, as we call him in English. Yeah, here he is, and he's does a lot of this modern stuff. He made some wonderful records on Mode, and really what this is a Xenakis disc with a Varèse bonus, because Xenakis you get Dammerschein for large orchestra, Persifassa for 6 percussionists, and La Déesse Athena, the goddess Athena, for baritone, solo percussion, and ensemble. 2 of these things, Dammerschein and the Athena thing, are premiere recordings done in the presence, all of it's done in the presence of the composer. And then, as a little encore, a delicious little encore, they toss off Amériques, and they toss it off quite well. Are they the most powerful orchestra out there doing this work? No. But they're well recorded, and if you're a Xenakis person, you're going to wind up with this, as I did, because I got it because I wanted the Xenakis stuff. So there you go. Isn't that interesting? You know, you find these things in the strangest places. Anyway, I'll put that there. Okay. Then we've got, okay, now we're into sort of like the famous ones. And the famous ones are, well, here we have Ricardo Chailly with the Concertgebouw, with his complete Varèse 2 CD thing here. Was it 2 CD or 3 CDs? I keep forgetting. Oh, I can always look, right? 2 CDs. Thank you. Now, I don't really care for this performance. I have to be honest with you. You know, I appreciate the fact that the Concertgebouw is doing its thing, and Varèse did a complete, I mean, that Chailly did the complete Varèse, and it, you know, when this came out, everybody was raving and drooling all over it, but I was not too thrilled, and here's the reason. There are 2 versions of Amériques. There's the original version, which has like all kinds of offstage brass and, you know, effects like that. And then there's the revised version. Everybody basically does the revised version, except these folks went back to the original version. I don't think the original version is as good. The reason I don't think it's as good is because these spatial effects just weaken the sound of the thing. I mean, Amériques is a hard-bitten, you know, sharp, edgy piece. And to have things sort of coming from off stage and all that, I find it softens the textures unduly. And I think also possibly that Chailly's performance is a little bit soft-edged. Not that the playing isn't wonderful. It is. The playing is amazing. But the interpretation, and there's not a lot to interpret here, but the interpretation really does sound, in conjunction with these extra effects and things. Well, it sounds different, that's for sure, and just not as powerful and exciting as I like it to be. It's just the way I feel about it. The other stuff on here is pretty wonderful, but Amériques, I think, doesn't quite bring home the bacon for me. So I'm sorry, folks, but that's how I feel about it. Then we've got a real sleeper. This is Amériques Nocturnal and Equatorial, done by the Utah Symphony Orchestra and Maurice Abravanel. I mean, the Utah Symphony Orchestra. Also, you get Pacific 231 by Honegger on here. I mean, the Utah Symphony Orchestra doing Amériques, and it's fabulous. It's one of the great Amériques. I mean, it really is. It has virtuosity. It has incredible textural clarity. It is crisp and snappy and exciting, and you just can't believe it. I mean, it really is a shock, given, you know, some of the other things that were done in Utah. I mean, they were never terrible, of course, but they were almost a community orchestra when Abravanel got them. And he whipped them into some kind of shape, sort of second-tier status at their best. And wow, whoa, did they wake up for this? It's on Vanguard, and it's just an amazing sonic recording. Everything about it is like just a shock. And it was recorded in 1968. Wow. It's a real stunner. If you can hear it, you should. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. Much more recently, very much more recently, is this one. This is a wonderful disc, by the way. This is Michael Tilson Thomas and the San Francisco Symphony on a disc called American Mavericks. You get Henry Cowell's Synchrony and his piano concerto, and Lou Harrison's Concerto for Organ with Percussion Orchestra, which is really very cool. And then Amériques. And and they just blow the roof off the piece. It's very, very exciting, and it's a wonderful collection of Maverick Americana. I mean, take a look at this one, because this is a disc you really ought to have. I have it on my iPhone as well as here. You know, I downloaded it from iTunes, and it's just a wonderful companion when you're looking for something really fresh and bracing and different and spiky and full of you know, energy and originality, and it's just great stuff. So Cowell, Harrison, and Varèse, a wonderful disc with Michael Tilson Thomas and the San Francisco Symphony. You should definitely consider that one. And then we have Pierre Boulez. Now, Pierre Boulez did it twice. Yes, he did it twice. Once this one, this is the good one, with the New York Philharmonic on Sony, and it's an all Varèse disc. This is a seriously all Varèse disc. You've got ionization, Amériques, density 21.5, offrande, arcana, octandre, and intégrale. 77 minutes. It's almost the complete Varèse. It's really wonderful to have. And it's very excitingly done, and it's well recorded. His Chicago remake, like so much that he did, everybody would think, oh, Chicago, brass, right? Brass, lots of brass, big brass, ballsy brass, tons and tons and buckets of brass. Well, it's a soft-edged, sluggish performance compared to this one. I mean, it's a function of not of tempo so much as rhythm and clarity and accent, and it just doesn't take off the way this first one does. So I'm not even talking about that one. I didn't even bother to pull it out. I have it. It's in the big Boulez box, of course. You know, it's there. But so many of his remakes were just not as exciting as his first time through. And because the fires had cooled as he aged. There's no question about that. So if you want to get Boulez doing Varèse, and you should, I mean, this is a wonderful Varèse disc. It really is. The Amériques is the one here with the New York Phil. That's the exciting one. Yes. However, we have to come down to a single choice, and my single choice is, voila, this one. It's Cleveland Orchestra under Christoph Dochnani on Decca. Now, I saw them do this live, and that's not the reason I chose this, but I saw them do this live with the Ives Fourth Symphony, which is the coupling here. Boy, was that a program to put those two pieces on the same program. And I've mentioned this before. I've talked about it before because I've talked about this recording before. The Amériques was one of the most dazzling things I've ever seen in my life. I was with my friends from Finland, including Reijo Kiilunen, who runs Ondine Records, and a couple other folks like that. And we were all sitting in the balcony, and it was jaw-dropping. It was jaw-droppingly, thrillingly wonderful. I particularly liked how they enlisted one of the harpists to play percussion at the very end because they needed one extra person. But wow, there's a moment in here, and I talked about this before, I know, but there's a moment in there where you have 6 trumpets in unison playing this crazy lick that was so tuned in, so perfectly in unison. I mean, we all just looked at each other and went, whoa! And Dochnani himself, when it was over, was visibly shaken. He really was. They finished it. There was this enormous final crescendo, and he just went like this to them. I mean, he was like, wow, we did it. We did it. Anyway, that has nothing to do with my evaluation of this, because there are many times where you see things live where everyone goes, yay, we did it, we did it. Then you hear the record and it's like, ugh, they didn't do it. They really didn't do it. They did it. They do it here. They do it with the Ives 4. It's also got the unanswered question. This is an amazing disc. And there's a big Dochnani box coming, so don't worry. You'll have a second chance to grab it if you can't find this thing singly. But this combines everything you want in Amériques. It's swift, and it's actually, I think, marginally the quickest one of all here, 21 minutes and 41 seconds. And it's rhythmic and exciting as all hell and powerful beyond belief and incredibly texturally clear and precise. It's really stunning. It's one of the greatest recordings ever, actually. I mean, this may show up there at some point. It probably should, this disc. It's just an incredible disc. And if you want to hear everything Amériques can be, then this is your baby. Dochnani in Cleveland on Decca. And it's wonderfully well recorded, too. So keep on listening, friends. Thanks for joining me. Take care.